My name is Harper Westfield. I'm 34 years old. And 8 years ago, my mother looked me in the eye and said 6 words that ended our relationship. You chose him, not us. She said it standing in the doorway of my childhood home, my father behind her with his arms crossed, my brother and sister on the stairs watching like it was a performance they'd been waiting for. I had just told them I was getting married. To a man they'd decided wasn't good enough. A man who worked with his hands. A man who didn't have a trust fund or a corner office or a last name that opened doors. They gave me a choice, him or them. I chose him. For 8 years, not one of them called. Not on my birthday. Not on Christmas. Not when I sent them a wedding photo. Not when I changed my phone number and my address and my entire life to build something with the man I loved. And then last Tuesday, my husband's company sold for $52 million. That night, my family showed up at my door with smiles and demands. My response made them leave in silence. Before we go on, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I read every single one. Now let me take you back to where this all started. I met Owen on a Tuesday morning in March at a coffee shop in Riverside. I was 26. He was 28. I just started working at my father's investment firm, wearing suits I couldn't afford and pretending I belonged in rooms full of people who measured worth in zeros. Owen was at the next table with blueprints spread across the surface, a pencil behind his ear, coffee going cold while he sketched something I couldn't see. He had paint under his fingernails, sawdust on his jeans. Calluses on his hands when he reached across to grab the sugar I'd been about to take. Sorry, go ahead. His voice was warm, real, not the practiced smooth of the men I worked with who performed confidence like a second language. You take it, I can wait. He smiled, poured sugar into his coffee, went back to his blueprints. I should have gone back to my laptop. I had a presentation due, a pitch deck to finish, numbers to make sense of, but instead I said, "What are you building?" He looked up, surprised, like people didn't usually ask. Custom furniture, I run a small shop. This is for a client who wants a dining table. Live edge walnut, 8 feet long. That sounds beautiful. It will be if I can figure out the joinery. He turned the blueprint so I could see it. Started explaining mortise and tenon joints and wood movement and things I didn't understand but wanted to. I stayed for an hour, forgot about my presentation. Learned that Owen had started his furniture business 3 years ago in a garage he rented for $200 a month. That he worked alone. That he loved what he did even though it barely paid enough to live on. That he measured success in pieces built, not dollars earned. We exchanged numbers. He texted me that night. Coffee shop girl, want to see a dining table get built? I did. I showed up at his workshop the next Saturday. It was exactly what you'd imagine. Concrete floor, exposed beams, tools hanging on pegboards, the smell of wood and oil and something clean. He showed me the walnut slab, ran his hands over the grain like it was something precious. This tree was 140 years old when it came down. You can see the growth rings. Each one is a year, a season, a drought, a flood. The whole life of the tree is right here in the wood. I fell in love with him in that moment, not because he was handsome, though he was, not because he was charming, though he could be, but because he saw beauty in things other people overlooked, because he built things that would outlast him, because he worked with his hands and his heart and didn't apologize for either. We dated for a year. I didn't tell my family about him right away, not because I was ashamed, but because I knew what they'd say. I knew how they'd look at him. I knew my father would ask what Owen did for a living and then dismiss him the second he heard furniture maker. I knew my mother would smile politely and then pull me aside later to ask if I was sure about this. I knew my brother would make jokes. My sister would ask if Owen had a retirement plan. They'd all decide he wasn't good enough without ever knowing him, so I kept him separate. Work Harper and Owen Harper lived in different worlds, and for a year it worked. Until Owen asked me to marry him. He did it in his workshop on a Sunday morning. No fancy restaurant, no photographer hiding in the bushes, just him and me and a ring he'd made himself. Silver band with a small diamond he'd saved for 6 months to buy. Harper, I love you. I want to build a life with you. Will you marry me? I said yes before he finished the sentence. And that night, I knew I had to tell my family. If you've ever had to choose between the person you love and the people who raised you, you know exactly what I'm about to describe. I drove to my parents' house the next Saturday. They lived in Asherton, a suburb 40 minutes south of Riverside, in a house that looked like every other house on the street. Big, beige, boring. My father's BMW in the driveway, my mother's Mercedes beside it. I parked on the street and sat there for 5 minutes trying to find the courage to go inside. My mother opened the door before I knocked. "Harper, what a surprise. We weren't expecting you." "I know, I should have called. Can I come in?" She stepped aside. My father was in the living room reading the Wall Street Journal. My brother was on the couch scrolling his phone. My sister was in the kitchen making tea. A perfect Saturday afternoon in the Westfield house. Nothing out of place. Nothing uncomfortable. Nothing real. "I have news," I said. They all looked up. "I'm engaged." My mother's face did something complicated. Surprise, confusion, something else I couldn't name. "Engaged to who?" "His name is Owen Reeves. I've been dating him for a year." "A year," my father set down his newspaper. "And you're just now telling us?" I wanted to be sure before I introduced him. "Sure of what?" my mother asked. "That it was serious." My brother laughed, not a kind laugh. "A year is pretty serious, Harper." "What does he do?" "He builds custom furniture. He has his own business." The room went quiet. My father and mother exchanged a look, the kind of look that says everything without saying anything. "Furniture," my father repeated. "Like a carpenter. Like a craftsman, an artist, he builds beautiful things." "Does he make money doing this?" "He makes enough." "Enough for what?" "Enough to live, enough to be happy." My mother stood up, smoothed her skirt. "Harper, sweetheart, can we talk? Just us?" She led me into the kitchen, closed the door, turned to face me with that expression she wore when she was about to say something she thought was for my own good. "Are you pregnant?" "What? No." "Then why are you rushing into this?" "I'm not rushing, I love him." "You're 26, you have your whole life ahead of you, you're working at your father's firm, you're building a career. Why would you tie yourself to someone who builds furniture for a living?" "Because I love him." "Love isn't enough, Harper. Love doesn't pay bills. Love doesn't build a future. You need stability, security, a partner who can provide the life you're used to." "Owen provides plenty." "Does he? What does he make in a year?" 50,000, 60. "I don't know, we don't talk about money like that." "Well, you should, because money matters. And if you marry someone who can't support you the way you deserve, you'll regret it." I looked at my mother, really looked at her, at the woman who'd raised me to believe that worth was measured in bank accounts and job titles and the size of your house, at the woman who smiled at strangers and judged them before they finished introducing themselves, at the woman who loved me, I think, but only when I made choices she approved of. "I'm marrying him, Mom, with or without your blessing." Her face hardened. "Then you're making a mistake." "That's my mistake to make." "Don't say I didn't warn you." "Don't come crying to us when it falls apart. Don't expect us to bail you out when you realize you can't live on love and furniture." "I won't." We went back to the living room. My father was waiting. "Well, she's decided to marry him," my mother said. Her voice was cold, flat, like she was announcing a business decision. "Despite our concerns." My father looked at me. "Harper, your mother and I have worked very hard to give you opportunities. We've paid for your education. We've given you a position at the firm. We've set you up for success. And you're going to throw it all away for a man who works with his hands." "I'm not throwing anything away. I'm building something different. You're embarrassing this family." "How? By marrying someone I love. By marrying someone beneath you." The words hung in the air like smoke. My brother was watching from the couch. My sister had appeared in the kitchen doorway. They were all waiting to see what I'd do. "Owen isn't beneath me or anyone." "Harper." My mother's voice was softer now, almost pleading. "We're not trying to be cruel, we're trying to protect you. You don't know what it's like to struggle, to worry about money, to live paycheck to paycheck. We don't want that life for you. I don't want the life you've chosen for me either." My father stood up. "Then you need to make a choice. You can have your family, or you can have him, but you can't have both. If you're still with me, if your heart is pounding the way mine was, leave a comment. Because this is where everything changed." I looked at my father, at my mother, at my siblings who'd never once stood up for me, at the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally but had decided their approval had conditions. "You chose him, not us," my mother said. "That's right, I did." I walked out, got in my car, drove back to Riverside, and I never went back. Owen and I got married 3 months later at the courthouse. Just us and 2 witnesses we pulled off the street. I wore a simple white dress I bought at a thrift store for $40. Owen wore the one suit he owned. We didn't have a reception. Didn't have a honeymoon. Didn't have anything except each other and a 1-bedroom apartment above a bakery that smelled like bread every morning. I quit my job at my father's firm. Started doing freelance bookkeeping for small businesses. Made enough to cover rent and groceries. Owen kept building furniture. kept working 14-hour days in his rented garage, kept coming home with sawdust in his hair and paint on his clothes and stories about the pieces he was making. We were happy, happier than I'd ever been in my parents' big beige house with their big beige expectations. But it was hard, really hard. There were months we couldn't pay rent on time. Weeks we ate rice and beans because it was cheap and filling. Days I cried in the bathroom because I was exhausted and scared and wondering if my mother had been right. But Owen never wavered, never complained, never looked at me like I was a burden. He just kept building, kept believing. Kept saying, "We're going to make it, Harper, I promise." And slowly we did. Owen's furniture started getting noticed. A designer featured one of his pieces in a magazine. A gallery in the city asked to sell his work. Orders started coming in faster than he could fill them. He hired his first employee, then his second, then his third, moved out of the garage into a real workshop with actual heat and windows that opened, started making enough money that we could breathe, could save, could think about the future without panic. By year 3, Owen's Furniture Co. was profitable. By year 5, it was thriving. He had 15 employees, a showroom, corporate clients who ordered custom pieces for their offices. He was making furniture that would outlast all of us, and he was doing it his way. I handled the books, the invoices, the payroll, the boring parts Owen hated. We were a team, building something together, building a life my family would never understand because they'd never asked. Not once in 8 years did my mother call to see how I was doing. Not once did my father send an email. My brother and sister acted like I'd never existed. And honestly, I stopped thinking about them, stopped wondering if they missed me, stopped hoping they'd realize they were wrong. I built a life without them, and it was a good life. Until last year, Owen came home from the workshop one Tuesday evening with a strange look on his face. Not happy, not sad, something in between. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong, something happened today. What? A company reached out, a big company, they want to buy us. Buy the business? Yeah, they make high-end furniture. They want to acquire Owen's Furniture Co. expand their custom division. They're offering. He paused, looked at me like he couldn't believe what he was about to say. $52 million. I sat down. The number didn't make sense, couldn't make sense. We'd built the business from nothing, from a garage and a dream and 14-hour days, and now someone wanted to pay $52 million for it. Are you serious? Dead serious. They sent a formal offer letter. Their lawyers want to meet next week. What did you say? I said I need to talk to my wife. He sat down beside me, took my hands. Harper, this is life-changing money. We could retire, travel, do whatever we want. But it also means giving up the business, giving up control, letting someone else run what we built. I won't do it unless you're sure. Are you sure? I think so. I've built what I wanted to build, proved what I wanted to prove. Maybe it's time to let someone else take it from here. Build something new together. I kissed him. Then let's do it. The sale took 4 months. Lawyers, due diligence, contracts longer than novels. But on a Friday in late September, we signed the papers. $52 million was wired into our account. We walked out of the lawyer's office in a daze, drove home in silence, sat in our apartment above the bakery that still smelled like bread and tried to understand that our lives had just completely changed. We should celebrate, Owen said. How? I don't know. Dinner, champagne, burn our tax returns. I laughed. Let's just order pizza, stay home, process this. Perfect. That night at 8:30, our doorbell rang. We weren't expecting anyone. Owen went to the door, opened it. And there, standing in the hallway, were my parents, my brother, and my sister, smiling like they'd just run into old friends, like the last 8 years hadn't happened, like they hadn't disowned me for choosing the man I loved. Harper. My mother's voice was bright, cheerful, fake. Surprise, we heard the wonderful news and we had to come congratulate you in person. Stay with me, because this is where I had to decide who I was going to be. Owen looked at me. I looked at him. I looked at my family standing in the hallway of our building with smiles that didn't reach their eyes. How did you find our address? Oh, sweetheart, you know how it is. Small world. We have mutual friends. We didn't have mutual friends. We didn't have any overlap. They'd found us because Owen's name was in the business news, because the sale was public record, because $52 million was the kind of number that made people pay attention. Can we come in? My mother asked. We've missed you so much. I didn't move. Owen put his hand on my shoulder, steady, supportive, letting me make the choice. Why are you here? To see you, to celebrate. Harper, this is such incredible news. We're so proud of you. You haven't spoken to me in 8 years. I know, and we've regretted it every day, haven't we? She looked at my father. He nodded, forced, uncomfortable. Every day, he said. My brother stepped forward. Look, Harper, we messed up. We were wrong about Owen, clearly. He gestured at Owen like he was an exhibit. The guy built a $50 million company. That's impressive. We should have seen it coming. You should have seen what? That he had potential, that he was going places, that he wasn't just some carpenter. I felt Owen tense beside me, felt the insult land, not just some carpenter, like what he'd been when I met him wasn't enough. Like he'd only become worthy now that he had money. We were hoping we could talk, my mother said. Catch up, maybe go to dinner, our treat. Your treat. Well, yes, we want to make up for lost time, and honestly, Harper, we were hoping you might help us with something. Help you with what? My sister spoke for the first time. My business is struggling. I need about $200,000 to stay afloat. Just a loan, I'd pay you back. And I'm looking at investment opportunities, my brother said. If you're looking to diversify, I've got some great options. Could use about $500,000 in seed capital. My father cleared his throat. Your mother and I are thinking about retiring early, downsizing, but the market's been tough. If you could help with the mortgage gap, maybe $300,000, we'd be set. There it was, the real reason they'd shown up. Not to apologize, not to reconnect, not because they missed me or regretted the choice they'd forced me to make. They came because I had money now, because the man they'd called beneath me had sold his company for $52 million, because they thought that changed something, that it erased 8 years, that it made them entitled to a piece of what we'd built while they were busy pretending I didn't exist. Get out, my mother blinked. What? Get out. Harper, don't be dramatic. We're family. We're just asking for help. Isn't that what family does? Is it? Because 8 years ago I needed you. I needed you to accept the man I loved. I needed you to show up at my wedding. I needed you to call on my birthday or Christmas or any random Tuesday just to see if I was okay. And you didn't. You gave me a choice, him or you, and I chose him, and you cut me out of your lives like I never existed. We were hurt, my father said. You were hurt. I married the love of my life, and my entire family disowned me, and you were hurt. If you've ever had people who abandoned you show up the second you had something they wanted, drop a like right now. My mother's voice got sharper. Harper, we're trying to apologize, we're trying to make things right, but you're being stubborn, childish, we're your family, you owe us. I don't owe you anything. We raised you, paid for your education, gave you every advantage. And you took it all back the second I didn't do what you wanted. You want to talk about what you gave me? Fine. You gave me a childhood, you paid for college, and I'm grateful. But you also taught me that love is conditional. That family only matters when everyone plays their part. That worth is measured in dollars and job titles, and whether someone is beneath you or not. I looked at Owen. At the man they'd decided wasn't good enough. The man who'd worked 14-hour days to build something beautiful. The man who'd held me when I cried about missing my family. The man who'd never once made me choose between him and anything I loved. You were right about one thing, Mom. I did choose him over you. It's the best choice I ever made, because Owen never asked me to prove I loved him. He never gave me an ultimatum. He never measured my worth in bank accounts or last names. He just loved me. For 8 years while you were gone, he loved me. While you were pretending I didn't exist, he was building a life with me. While you were waiting to see if I'd fail, he was making sure I didn't. My brother scoffed. So what, you're going to punish us forever? Never forgive us? We said we were sorry. You said you were proud. You said you'd been wrong about Owen because he's rich now. That's not an apology. That's an admission that you still don't get it. You still think his worth is tied to his bank account. You still think the only reason you should have accepted him is because he turned out to be successful by your definition. You didn't learn anything. You just want money. My mother's face had gone from smiling to cold. Fine, if that's how you feel, don't come crying to us when you need something. I won't need anything from you. I haven't needed anything from you for 8 years. You're being cruel, Harper. I'm being honest. You chose money over me. You chose your pride over your daughter. And now you're upset that I'm choosing myself over you. But that's not cruelty. That's just consequence. Owen's hand tightened on my shoulder. My mother looked at him, really looked at him for the first time. You've turned her against us. No, ma'am, you did that all by yourself. My father stepped forward. Harper, if you don't help us, we'll lose the house. Then you'll lose the house. After everything we've done for you, you haven't done anything for me in 8 years. You made your choice. Now live with it. I stepped back. Owen stepped back with me. I closed the door, locked it, and we stood in our apartment above the bakery while my family stood in the hallway. I could hear my mother's voice. Muffled, angry, then footsteps, then nothing, they left. We stood there in silence. Owen pulled me into his arms. I didn't cry. I thought I would, but I didn't. I just felt lighter, free, like I'd been carrying something heavy for 8 years and I'd finally set it down. "Are you okay?" Owen asked. "Yeah. I really am. Do you think they'll come back?" "Maybe, but it won't matter. They showed me exactly who they are, again, and I'm done pretending that's going to change." That night, we ordered pizza like we'd planned, opened a cheap bottle of wine from the corner store, sat on our couch in our little apartment and talked about what we wanted to do with the rest of our lives. We bought a house 6 months later. Nothing huge, nothing showy, just a place with good light and room for Owen to have a workshop. We traveled. We donated. We built a life that felt like ours. My family called twice more. Once through a lawyer demanding their fair share of money they had no legal claim to. Once through my aunt who I barely knew, trying to guilt me into reconciliation. I didn't respond to either, and eventually they stopped. Someone watching this right now has family who only shows up when you have something to offer. Family who measures your worth and what you can do for them. Family who will disown you when you disappoint them and embrace you when you succeed. If that's you, I want you to know something. You don't owe them access to your success. You don't owe them forgiveness just because they've decided they want back in. And you definitely don't owe them money, time, or energy just because you share DNA. My family disowned me for marrying a poor man. They said I chose him, not them. They were right. I did choose him, and I'd choose him again every single time. Because Owen never asked me to prove my worth. He never gave me ultimatums. He never measured his love in conditions. He just showed up, every day for 8 years, while my family was gone. And when they came back with smiles and demands, I chose him again. Because that's what real family does. They show up when it's hard. Not just when it's profitable. If this story reached you, if you've ever had to choose between people who love you conditionally and the life you've built without them, tell me in the comments. Tell me what you chose. I read every single one.